So maybe you've heard of this niche real estate investing strategy that we've been talking about. It's called wholesaling. Ta-da! And here's how it works. So what we do is we go out and we market for motivated sellers. And what's a motivated seller? These are people that own a property and they need to sell it ASAP for whatever reason. Maybe they're way behind on their payments. Maybe they are behind on their taxes. Maybe they just need to move. Maybe they just need the money. Doesn't really matter. We are just targeting these motivated sellers. Why? Because they're probably willing to sell their property at below market value just to get out from under the property. They need to get out for whatever reason it is. So we need to go find them. You've probably seen signs out there. You've seen probably billboards that say, "We buy ugly houses." You've probably seen the ugly signs at the corners of the road that say, "We buy houses all cash. Call now." Those are people looking for these motivated sellers. We do the same thing. We send mail to people asking to buy their house. We're looking for motivated sellers. So we get them on the phone. We see what their situation is. If they are very motivated, they're willing to sell at a discount, we would go ahead and write up a purchase contract to these people, usually at a very, very much below market value. And at that point, we have the property under purchase contract and we have equitable interest in that property. So now what do? So our goal is to sell that property before we actually have to close on that property to somebody else. We want to have it sold to somebody else before we have to close. So at that point, we need to start marketing the property. And usually who we market to is cash buyers. Usually the only way it works is with cash buyers. So usually other investors, and these other investors are typically cash buyers. So they kind of know the drill and they're used to this. So you get a property under market value. You find a cash buyer investor that wants your property. You sell it to that person for slightly higher than you got it under contract for. So then you write a contract with them at a higher price. So you take the two contracts, you take them to your escrow officer or your title company. They handle all the paperwork. They handle all the money. They do a title search to make sure everything's good to go. And then at closing day, your cash buyer investor brings in their money. They pay the full price that you said, and then the escrow company gives the end buyer the money that you had on your contract. And then there's a spread in between. That's your difference. That's either your assignment fee or just your profit on the deal. And you get a check at the end of the day. And we've been able to do that multiple times over and over. Here's a picture from December when we were just getting started. We did actually 10 closings that day. Here's a picture of 8 of the checks. That's actually under our Christmas tree. It was like a $12,000 deal, or $12,000 day. Actually, a couple days before that, we had a $15,000 day. So this is all very, very real, very possible. It's very legal. There's nothing weird about it. You're just taking advantage of the market and helping to put buyers with sellers together. So let me just give you a quick example of our very first deal. We sent a letter to a person. We're mailing vacant or distressed looking houses. This person called us. They said, "Hey, we're behind on our taxes by a couple of years and we're afraid the city is going to foreclose or repossess our home very soon. So we might as well sell it now and get the cash." So we said, "Okay, let's check out the house." So we went out there. We looked at the property. We made an offer of around $15,000. And they said, "Sure, let's do it." They were very motivated to take $15,000 for that house. It was a pretty decent house. So at that point we had it under contract. So immediately the next day or two I went to a real estate investor meeting and I advertised the property at the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, one of the investors says, "Hey, I'm very interested in that property," and I actually advertised it at $24,000, and they were still very interested at that price. They said, "Well, let's go look at it." So a couple days later I had to take that investor to the property. He looked at it. He liked it. A couple days later, he brought his repair guy out to make sure the repairs weren't going to be too extravagant, because it did need massive repairs, which is expected a lot of times in these types of deals. And they said, "Okay, we'll buy it for $21,000." A little less than I had hoped, but I said, "Hey, this is my first deal, me and Courtney's first deal," and we said, "Okay, let's do it." Ended up going back and giving the seller an extra $1,000 because it turns out they owed some code enforcement violations. So I wanted to make sure they got the amount that I told them they were going to get. But otherwise, it was free and clear that they had inherited the property and just weren't paying the taxes on it. So, and we actually took the seller to the title company, which we don't normally do. The title company handed the seller their check for the amount we told them they would get, and then the title company actually just handed us our check right there for $5,000. And everyone was happy, and we went home and we celebrated. We said, hey, this actually works. So it was all downhill from there. Once you get that first check, this works, and you get the confidence, and then you keep it going. So obviously we love wholesaling, but really, why do we love wholesaling? It's definitely the lowest barrier of entry to get into real estate. It's very low risk because you don't really need a lot of money to get into it. You need a little bit of money for marketing, and that's about it. Your credit is never pulled on these deals. I mean, the seller is never going to pull your credit to see if you can actually purchase the deal for the price you agreed to. You need very little experience. We had no experience at all just a year ago. You can definitely do it part-time or your 9-to-5 job or whatever job you have. You just need to dedicate a couple hours a week for your marketing and then talking to buyers and sellers and networking. And it's just an awesome way to learn real estate investing while you're also making some pretty good money at the same time. And here's another grouping of checks that I got. Me and Courtney got a few weeks ago. I can't see the date there, but these are from about a month ago in June, where we did 8 closings in one day. That was a $16,000 day. So those don't happen all the time, but they do happen. And we definitely think that wholesaling is the best foundation for real estate investor training, because if you can master wholesaling, then you can master everything else, because you kind of get in at the ground floor and you see everything. You become a master at locating great deals. You become a master at negotiating great deals. So once you have those 2 skills, you're going to be pretty much unstoppable when it comes to every other aspect of real estate investing. Obviously, you generate a lot of cash. That's probably my favorite part of it. I mean, it's a very cash generating business. It's more of a cash now as opposed to cash later type business. It's a quick cash. We call it the fast cash strategy. You control insider inventory. That's a pretty powerful thing. People, once you make a name for yourself and you start getting a lot of properties and selling a lot of properties, people start calling you. I mean, I can't tell you how many calls I got today from buyers saying, what do you got, Matt? What do you got? We got money to spend, and we're looking for these types of properties. I know you usually got some good ones. What do you got today? So I got like 1 property right now. I'm getting 2 more this week, but that's what you want. You want to be able to control this insider inventory. It's not on the MLS. You control it. You're the one marketing it, and people have to come to you to get it. It's a good feeling because you control your profits at that point too. Obviously, at that point, you own a business, so you can do some tax write-offs. Once you start a wholesaling business, you own a business. You're an entrepreneur at that point. It's a good feeling, and you can start writing off some of these expenses. You can write off education, write off your gas, write off, meals. I'm not an accountant, so you do what you got to do, but just know that you have those benefits there. And here's the cool thing about it. So say you make $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 wholesaling, and you got it all saved up in the bank. Then what do? Do you quit your job? I would say yes. I did that pretty quickly. Do you scale your wholesaling business? What do I mean by that is, I think you reinvest into your marketing. Make your marketing big time. Instead of spending, say, $500 to $1,000 a month in marketing, you spend $10,000 a month in marketing, where you're sending out lots of letters or lots of signs, and you're putting advertisements in newspapers, and you're getting all kinds of leads coming in now. At that point, you can hire people to do a lot of the work for you. So that's scaling your business. You kind of sit back, and now you're a business owner, and people are doing the work for you. Do you start other strategies in real estate, like buy and hold? So you start holding on to properties for cash flow and long-term wealth, and hopefully properties going up in price. And the other one is fix and flips. Do you buy a distressed home, put a little money into it, resell it at a bigger chunk? There's definitely more money to be made profit-wise per deal on fix and flips. A little bit more time and risk involved, but there's sometimes some very massive profits to be made. So I suggest you look into all these things. Real estate is where it's at, but this is the foundation. Maybe you don't even like real estate. You just generate a couple $100,000 in wholesaling, and then you just go buy a Subway. Do that. Be a business owner no matter what. Do something that's going to generate money for you and give you long-term wealth. That's what we're trying to instill here That's what we're going to instill with our program, is give you a plan to grow long-term wealth. So, hey, that's wholesaling in a nutshell.